Tonight, taking the B out of the BST and magnetic melodies from one of the moons of Jupiter. MITV 11 o'clock news with Bruce Graham and Judy Powell.
And a good evening, everyone. Would a tax be a tax by any other name, and would it cause so much friction in the New Brunswick legislature?
That question today when discussions heated up over the BST, which Elizabeth Weir took to calling the BS tax. Paul Harpel reports.
For weeks, Elizabeth Weir has been taunting government over the name of the combined sales tax. At every opportunity, she's called it the BS tax. Government House Leader Ray Fournette says the joking has gone on long enough. Quoting from the parliamentary rulebook, Fournette argued using the letters BS is wrong.
It says since 1958 it's been ruled unparliamentary to use the following expression. One of them is bullshit.
Not to be outdone, Weir got one more dig in.
And if they want to call it the bullshit tax, that's their prerogative.
After a lengthy discussion with the clerk, House Speaker Danny Gay ruled there would be no more BS allowed in the New Brunswick legislature.
We'll refer to it as the HST or the blended sales tax. Is that fair enough? Thank you very much.
Surprising as it may seem, the political jabbing didn't stop there. Outside the legislature, Weir and Fournette continued the BS debate.
We have all kinds of sense of humor, and you know that very well, Steve. But it goes beyond a sense of humor when you use that sort of terms in a legislative assembly.
Weir says she will respect the Speaker's ruling and refer to the tax properly when speaking inside the legislature. But outside, it's still open season on the HST.
I think there's a lot of BS inside that government, and certainly a lot of New Brunswickers think it's BS that they have to pay more for gasoline, electricity, and home heating fuel because of what Frank McKenna and Edmund Blanchard have done.
Like all of the harmonized sales tax.
It doesn't matter because I think people just feel resigned to the fact there's nothing they can do about anything.
And I don't care what the finance minister says either locally or nationally. This is a bullshit tax, period.
No matter what you call it, the new tax comes into effect April 1st. In Fredericton, Paul Harpel, MITV News.
Ottawa and New Brunswick have signed a deal to transfer job training responsibilities to the province. Premier McKenna said it will mean one-stop shopping for unemployed people seeking training. The agreement, which takes effect April 1st next year, mirrors one signed last week by the province of Alberta.
Well, more bad news from Ottawa for seasonal workers. The Committee for Jobs and Against UI Cutbacks says the new unemployment insurance calculations will not only apply for time worked, but also to the period of time not worked. That means it will be a lot more difficult for seasonal workers to qualify for benefits. The new changes take effect January the 1st.
Some workers at St. John Shipbuilding will vote on a new contract December 21st. The Marine Workers Union will present the package to its members Monday. A spokesman won't say what's in the proposed deal, but indicated the issue of job flexibility, a major stumbling block, has been addressed. The shipyard has been virtually shut down since it finished work on the last of the Navy's patrol frigates.
Students in northern New Brunswick are learning about Native culture and equality.
It's the second-year Superior Junior High in Bathurst that has celebrated Native heritage. Dave Crace reports.
For the past month, grade 7 students at Superior Junior High School in Bathurst have been studying Native culture. Today their studies wrapped up with a giant powwow in the school's gym. Some students dressed up in Native costumes. Others participated in traditional Native song and dance. Last week in the legislature, MLA David Olmsted said Natives should be assimilated and that Natives are using white guilt to get what they want from government. It's the second year in a row a student powwow has been held at Superior Junior High. Gilbert Sewell says controversial comments made by a Liberal MLA in Fredericton last week about Natives hurts an event like this.
It's a disappointment, and it's another thing is it's sort of tearing down any communications that the Native people had or the non-Native people had with the different reserves. and it just spreads more sort of like 20 years ago, the hate literature.
Gilbert Sewell isn't the only one at this powwow who feels strongly about equality.
I think we should, forget about the past and, just all be living together. It doesn't matter anymore.
Because, the natives were here first, and, they deserve the rights that they have, the ceremonies, the rituals, everything they do, to not be, offended by our way.
When you get some comments like that, it does make our job harder, but I think as a teacher, it is our job to teach the students that everyone is equal and you're allowed to have your own culture.
In Bathurst, Dave Crace, MITV News.
Meanwhile, the Fredericton Native Friendship Center has invited David Olmsted to a public debate. The MLA angered natives with comments about Aboriginal people using white guilt to get their way. Natives want to challenge the comments.
That isn't a response to the merits of what I said, so I don't know whether they've understood what I said, but at least they want to talk, and that's good.
Olmsted is considering the challenge.
Well, tempers flared last night at a large, racially diverse high school in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
A fight between two girls escalated into a situation dozens of police responded to. Photojournalist Stacey Bailey was first on the scene. She has this report.
A Christmas dance at Harbour High hadn't even begun when the first scuffle broke out. A white girl coming out of the bathroom bumped into a black girl and a fight erupted. 3 officers responded. Another fight broke out between 2 male students. That's when police say they were physically assaulted and overpowered. They called for backup, and they got it. RCMP responded from 5 detachments. 5 males, 3 adults, and 2 young offenders are charged with obstructing a peace officer. 2 police officers were slightly injured. 5 students were injured, several taken to hospital. Some students say police used excessive force.
They were letting the students leave one at a time, one group at a time. The police come, and they just started aggravating everything. They started digging. As soon as they come, they started harassing the black students.
She pulled up that pepper spray, pointing in my face. I said, well, you're going to spray me for nothing? Spray me. And she sprayed me for nothing.
Classes continued as usual today. Students have different opinions about the incident and police response.
I think they were just doing their job. I think they did what they were supposed to do.
I think that the media is really playing this up, and I don't think it's that bad. And I like my school, and I'm proud to be a student here. A lot of people try to hide it, but I know there's racial ever since that school was built. There's been fights. My sister went to it. There was always fights like that.
RCMP are defending themselves today against people who say they did use too much force.
In that crowd, you had white students, black students. The whole group actually advanced towards the 3 members who were trying to remove 2 students from the school.
The 5 males arrested last night will appear in court next month. In the meantime, the father of the white student at the center of this incident says his daughter is receiving death threats. He says physically she's okay, but emotionally she's distraught. In Harbour, Stacey Bailey, MITV News.
Well, the New Brunswick government wants to literally trim fat from municipal police forces. Solicitor General Jane Berry released a draft report on new policing standards. They include better physical fitness standards. Berry says she will give Lardy law enforcement officers 2 years to trim down. She doesn't say what will happen if officers remain on the chubby side. The standards would require all officers hired to meet and maintain new fitness standards. And truly Christmas tradition lit up Milford skies in West St. John tonight.
Certainly did. For 3 decades, Thunderhill has been a tribute to the season and now also to the man who started it. Lauren Daltrop with the story.
For many people in Milford in West St. John, the Christmas season doesn't really start until Thunderhill gets turned on in a blaze of light and reverence. It was set up by the late Lou Murphy, a longtime provincial MLA who lived next door. But now, since Murphy's death 14 months ago, it's been a labor of love for his nephew, Don Colin.
There was Lou's wish that Thunderhill should be continued, and I would like to continue Thunderhill in Lou's honor.
Colin's past is inextricably linked with the hill's beginnings. In 1966, he was hospitalized with a serious stomach ailment, and it appeared he might not make it.
And I wasn't expected to live. And Louis said if I lived, that he would erect a statue there. And so that's a Blessed Virgin there.
Neither Colin or Murphy realized it at the time, but that first statue was the start of something big. Almost every year afterwards, Murphy added something new. Colin's seemingly miraculous recovery is recorded in this bronze plaque on the wall. Now, every year, it's become a popular stop for many people and their families.
I'm overwhelmed. I can't believe the work that's been put into it.
I've heard about it, and I've never managed to get here, but finally made it with my granddaughter. I had some incentive.
Don Colin says in the last couple of years, the week before Christmas, Thunder Hill has attracted as many as 10,000 of the curious. And he says if they come during the few nights before the big day, they'll get a chance to meet someone special. Old St. Nick himself. In St. John, Lauren Daltrup, MITV News.
Thank you, Lauren. Very nice story. Marine Atlantic is expected to mark a milestone this weekend.
Sure are. The ferries that run between Borden, PEI, and Cape Tormentine, New Brunswick, are expecting passenger number 2 million of 1996. Officials expect that person to board sometime Saturday afternoon. It's the first time in the Ferry Corporation's history that will have carried 2 million people on one of its routes. The lucky passenger will receive vouchers towards a ferry ride to Newfoundland, accommodations, and spending money. The company New Brunswick to PEI service will disappear next year with the opening of a fixed link.
That's right. Well, coming up next in world and national news, sweet sounds for scientists and the rest of us from one of the moons of Jupiter.
And turning the tables on the beauty pageant industry. Stay with us.
MITV's broadcast and electronic news gathering is delivered throughout New Brunswick via Fundy Telecom's fiber optic network.
Canada has decided to end the multinational relief operation it headed in Eastern Zaire.
Canada says the operation's mission has been accomplished. Lieutenant General Maurice Baril says the refugee situation has changed dramatically in the past 4 weeks. He adds there is little need for a multinational operation in Eastern Zaire. The Canadians have been overseeing a humanitarian mission that included U.S. and British assistance to hundreds of thousands of Rwandan refugees.
Huge protests in the former Yugoslavia today. It was the 25th day of protests. 200,000 protesters were turned back by heavily armed riot police when they tried to march in the home of Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic. Opposition leaders claim elections were rigged to keep Milosevic's Socialist Party in power. Milosevic is offering to let international observers check the fairness of the elections. Demonstrators aren't impressed and are calling for his resignation.
The already fragile peace process between Israel and Palestine became even more so today. Israel announced it will grant financial benefits to Jewish settlers in the West Bank. It's a move the PLO says is tantamount to ending the Middle East peace process. The decision could entice more Israelis to settle in occupied areas. It's also a strong sign of defiance by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of his plans to tighten Israel's hold on captured Arab land.
Back in Canada, a private member's bill before the Commons would make it easier for people with AIDS to obtain experimental drugs. Bloc MP Rael Menard says the goal of his bill is to make drug companies more generous in supplying experimental drugs free of charge to people who are seriously ill.
And the House of Commons adjourned its fall sitting today. Members of Parliament may find themselves with a shorter than planned Christmas break, though. Government House Leader Herb Gray says the Senate has begun third reading debate on legislation to reform the Elections Act. Gray warns if the Senate makes amendments, he'll ask the Speaker to recall the House before February the 3rd.
U.S. President Bill Clinton was adding more names to his cabinet and senior staff positions today. As he nominated Chicago lawyer Bill Daly to become Commerce Secretary, Daly suddenly collapsed. He was quickly taken out of the room, but later did return with the president, reassuring the audience. Clinton also named New Mexican Congressman Bill Richardson to become the new U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
A big victory for one state in its fight against the tobacco industry. A Florida judge says the state can pursue racketeering charges in its efforts to recoup money spent on sickness due to smoking. The charges stem from allegations the industry has lied about smoking health risks.
Christmas won't be all that it used to be with all the trimmings in Bethlehem this year. The mayor of the birthplace of Jesus doesn't have enough money for traditional holiday events. A Palestinian spokesman says the town of Bethlehem is getting $40,000 for holiday celebrations, short of the $70,000 needed. And the Vatican says Pope John Paul, whose doctors have advised him to take it easy, won't celebrate Mass on Christmas Day, but the Pope will celebrate midnight Mass on Christmas Eve.
Well, scientists are drooling over the latest sights and sounds of one of Jupiter's moons. The Galileo spacecraft recorded the sound of a magnetic field similar to Earth's. Ann Kellen reports.
You are listening to the spacecraft Galileo entering what scientists say is a magnetic field surrounding one of Jupiter's moons, Ganymede.
This is the first confirmed magnetic field of a moon in the solar system.
The waves picked up by instruments on Galileo, digitized and transmitted back to Earth, are played back at 1/10 the speed so we can hear it. Listen again. A few seconds into the recording, you hear a louder crashing noise. That's the moment Galileo enters Ganymede's magnetic field. Over the past 7 months, Galileo has explored each of Jupiter's 4 largest moons. Io and Europa are made of rock, while Ganymede and Callisto are icy, 60% rock and 40% ice. But as scientists understand better what's inside these moons, Ganymede looks more like Io. They both have iron cores.
So while on the surface, Io and Ganymede are very different objects, if you probe their interiors, they're essentially quite similar.
And the latest images from the moon Europa focuses on one section of that moon.
We are blown away by this image.
There are small ridges of ice in its surface running all across the surface, interwoven, crisscrossing the surface. Very complex and difficult place to understand. We're going to have a lot of fun trying.
Next week, Galileo will take more pictures of Europa, 20 times better resolution than these new images. Ann Kellen, CNN reporting.
And as we mentioned at 6 o'clock tonight, if you play that backwards, it says Earthlings Go Home.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
Time now for the weather forecast. Judy, what have you got for the weekend?
We have some drizzle, actually, on the weekend,
Yeah.
but mild temperatures. So if you're out looking for your Christmas tree this weekend, put
going
on
to
the
be.
galoshes, and it'll be a good one out
The
there.
what?
Let's take
The galoshes?
Galoshes? Your galoshes? You know,
No, I
winter galoshes?
don't, no. No, I don't.
Duck
You mean
boots or
rubber
whatever.
boots?
Those too, yeah.
Okay.
Cloudy skies tonight across the entire region. We are looking at drizzle or freezing drizzle, even a few isolated flurries in parts of New Brunswick. Lows anywhere across the province, anywhere between -4 and +3 degrees. For Prince Edward Island and mainland Nova Scotia, we are looking at similar conditions, cloudy with drizzle. There's a chance of freezing drizzle in northern Nova Scotia. Lows tonight anywhere between -1 and +2 degrees, northeasterly winds. Tomorrow, similar conditions. We might see a bit of sunshine late in the afternoon in the St. John, Fredericton area, but otherwise cloudy with drizzle tomorrow, maybe an isolated flurry in northwestern New Brunswick. Highs between 0 and 2 degrees. Prince Edward Island will see either wet flurries or a shower, highs of 3. Cloudy skies across all of Nova Scotia, highs 3 to 4 degrees. Maybe a little bit of sunshine in the morning in Cape Breton, but then the drizzle returns for that region as well. Highs of 3 degrees tomorrow, a couple degrees above normal for this time of year. So take a look at the 3-day forecast. We're not going to see a lot of sunshine in New Brunswick. Cloudy skies for the next 3 days with some type of precipitation Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And on Prince Edward Island in Nova Scotia, we are going to see some sunshine on Sunday and Monday. Mostly cloudy, though, with a few sunny breaks. But by Tuesday, we are back to clouds and some showers, so won't be skiing this week, I don't think, in a lot of places.
Okay, stay with us. The 11 o'clock news continues after these messages.
First, here are tonight's unofficial winning numbers from the Atlantic Lottery Corporation. Good luck.
Dealing with the very best here. Finally tonight, we take you to Belgium. This is Judy's idea to view a beauty pageant with a twist.
Get a laugh at this. Here's a look at the Mr. Good-Looking contest.
It might not be that obvious at first glance,
But these guys all have something in common. They're good looking. Well, that's what they've been told. So what makes you think you're good looking?
I don't know, I'm natural. I try to be natural.
Well, sometimes when people give me compliments.
They're among the finalists in Belgium's Mr. Good-Looking Men contest. Before the winners decided, they've got to show what they're capable of. They've been practicing for weeks. It takes a lot of nerve to appear in public in underwear, but they also got to walk around with their clothes on. Only a few knew how to dance beforehand. It was hard work teaching the rest. They nearly all want to be models or actors or work in television, hope this will bring recognition, if not the first prize. Well, the jury has retired to consider its verdict, and the winner will go on to represent Belgium in the Mr. World contest. And last year, that was won by a Belgian. He's one of the judges. What's he looking for?
I was not exactly looking for only beauty, but also personality.
The audience has already made its choice. Now they'll find out if the judges agree. And the winner is...
Mr. Belgium, 1996,
Frank's a hairdresser. He wants to be an actor. His mother says he's a nice boy, and beauty being in the eye of the beholder also says...
All mothers think their sons are good looking.
Patricia Kelly, CNN, Brussels.
I laughed through the whole report.
Yep.
That's our broadcast for this Friday and for this week. Thanks so much for watching.
That's how I got my start. Stay tuned now for Sportsline with Doug Basin. Tonight, the Rocket goes to Toronto. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
This is MITV News.